with Van. He's right here.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the organizers of this event for putting this on. I would like to thank our fellow candidates for being here tonight. And I would like to thank each and every one of you for your attendance here and for your effort to make an informed decision. I love Stewart County. I want to call nowhere else home. I'm invested in our community. Tonight, the issues that we will cover will show that Stewart County's situation is perhaps more dire than you're aware. In discussing the issues presented to us by the organizers of this forum, you will hopefully have a better understanding of the challenges that Stewart County faces and why now is the time that we must act. A careful study of our county's finances and debt will show you that we must not only change the way we operate, we must change the way we think. We must be long-term problem solvers and end a reliance on Band-Aids and short-term patches. Going forward, if Stewart County is even to maintain the status quo, we must look at how that bill will be paid. It is my belief that we can achieve even more than that. Further, it is my belief that if we fail to try, given our current financials, that there's a day not very far off where we can no longer cash the checks Stewart County writes. The solution to our problems lies in fiscal responsibility and a proactive approach to development. We all want to protect our small town way of life. However, changes are coming, and we can choose the change we want, or we can deal with the change we are given. I have a vision for Stewart County, and I will present my plan concerning these two solutions. I am Van Herndon, and I appreciate your consideration to be your next mayor.
What is your vision for Stewart County?
I want to say to our organizers, I appreciate this question. A vision is essential in any endeavor. And I would suggest that a lack of vision is what has brought us to where we are today. Even the most skilled craftsman uses a plan to build a house. A vision can be called a blueprint for success. The cornerstone of the house that I desire to build is that of fiscal responsibility. A lack of fiscal responsibility leads to higher taxes, and higher taxes leads to irresponsible spending, and that is a slap in the face to the taxpayer and a burden on businesses. We must be purposeful in spending. We need a budget that does not include more than we bring in. Stewart County has some money set aside, but when that fund is gone, what then? Budgets can mean hard choices must be made, but we should never find it easy to spend more money than we have. We need a clear plan and a purpose for every dollar spent. It's not enough that we control our spending. We must increase the amount of revenue coming in. Our current budget includes deficit spending, and we have nearly as much debt as our annual budget. These factors mean an increase in revenue is a must. Now that said, I am not a fan of the default tax rate increase. With our area being so rural, a tax rate increase is a burden to the farmer and to families. However, it seems to be an easy go-to choice. My vision is Stewart County proactively seeks out new businesses. New businesses will create jobs, expand our property tax base, and give our citizens a greater amount of options. If you want broadband, paved roads, fire trucks, and well-trained police without higher taxes, you must have development.
What is Stewart County's current debt and approximate yearly income? And how do you plan to reduce our debt?
If you've ever carried a balance on a credit card, or if you've had an adjustable rate mortgage, especially in 2008, then you all too well understand the perils of debt. The cost of debt can make it seem that there is no light at the end of the tunnel. If you are at risk of losing some or part of your income, that debt can make you physically ill. And Stewart County is no different. As of June 30, 2017, the financial statements show that we had a debt of just over $27 million. To put that into perspective, we only generate $13.5 million by our own efforts. The rest of our $32.7 million budget comes from state and federal agencies, and there is the risk of diminished income that I alluded to. We must be prudent and diligent in our spending going forward. Now, by my calculation, we are currently paying down just over $2 million per year on our long-term debt. Barring any further building projects or large expenditures, with our current effort, we will be debt-free in just over 11 years. Now, our biggest concern should be that we never allow our debt load to exceed beyond the level of that which we can successfully address with the revenue we directly generate. In other words, stop relying on state and federal funds when considering debt. Debt is a tool. When handled responsibly, it can help our community grow. Debt incurred without a plan is a plan for disaster. The current path we are on is reasonable as long as we are careful in spending and strategic in our planning.
Okay, our next question, we'll start with Mr. Van Herndon. How much of this county's budget comes from state and federal dollars? And you can comment on that as
In my effort to answer this question, it caused me to wonder just how many of our neighbors would get close without doing a deep dive on the budget. The county budget is actually 8 different budgets, and while a budget summary does exist, there's no one single document that adds up everything for one number. I'll be providing you data from the 2015-2016 fiscal year. The reason for this is because it is the only year that is audited and does not include projections and estimates. So these are actual numbers and audited. We have a $32.7 million combined budget. Federal non-TVA dollars make up $1.3 million. State funds represent $15.1 million. And while the majority of TVA money comes through the state, I separated it out into its own category, and TVA money represents $2.9 million. Stated in percentages, the federal portion of our revenue is 4.1%, the state portion is 46.1%, and TVA makes up 8.72% of our budget. Now, beyond these numbers, what does this show us? When you take these percentages together, you can see that 58.84% of our budget comes from third parties and is not produced by us. We have a significant problem on over-reliance on other people other than ourselves. If we want Stewart County to have the best possible future, we must take responsibility. We are basically an adult living in mom's basement. We contribute some, but most of our expenses are covered by federal and state government. We must start investing in ourselves and developing our own resources, our own land, and our people so that we can be more self-sufficient and have greater control over our own destiny. My vision for Stewart County aims to achieve that very goal, the goal of a prosperous and thriving county.
what is your plan for job growth in Stewart County?
As I've stated previously, I have a vision for Stewart County proactively seeking out development. It is my belief that government should not be involved directly in commerce. However, it can strive to make this area attractive and business friendly. Now, I do not support the use of tax instruments like tax increment financing, I believe what Mr. Brandon was referring to, and incentive programs some governments use to attract development where often the business is the only winner. Now, TVA has a program called Consumer Connection in which they collect commerce data. And when I was the president of the Chamber of Commerce, I had the privilege of attending a meeting that had a presentation which showed hundreds of thousands of dollars of sales tax revenue being lost to surrounding areas like Clarksville. So not only would additional retail businesses provide jobs, but generate tax revenue by keeping Stewart County dollars at home. Additionally, industrial jobs, which were once adequate, if not plentiful, are now scarce. I say this thinking back to the day when Oshkosh would release their employees at the end of the day and it would cause a traffic jam in the middle of Dover. And now that large building houses 15 employees. Stewart County itself had an industrial park on the North Stewart area. This land was eventually sold because of a lack of sewer services. Stewart County's mayor needs to be its biggest cheerleader and its biggest recruiter when it comes to businesses and jobs. And further, we need to make sure that our workforce is better trained so that they are more attractive to potential employers. And that is why I support the efforts underway to bring vocational skills programs to Stewart County. A great deal of our labor drives to other areas on a daily basis, as Mr. Campbell has alluded to. If we can increase the attractiveness of those, then someday maybe we can have employers that can employ everyone here. Thank you.
What are you going to do when TVA goes away to make up for the revenue shortfall?
I want to thank our organizers for this question, because with almost 60% of our budget coming from state and federal money, we're dependent upon third parties for our fiscal well-being. We are dependent to the point that I would say we're addicted. State and federal money is a needle in our arm, and we seemingly have no sense of how to break the cycle of addiction. Now, with the previous administration's war on coal, concerns about Cumberland Fossil are warranted. New Johnsonville has or is closing. However, the situation may not be as desperate as it appears, and I say this because while 3% of TVAs in lieu of tax payments are made directly to the counties, the other 97% are paid through the state. The state keeps half, and they use a formula to pay out the other half, taking into consideration the county's percentage of state population, the county's percentage of state land, and the percentage of TVA acreage within that county. Therefore, even if Cumberland Fossil shuts down entirely, some amount of TVA funds would still be forthcoming. With regards to the job loss in that event, some plants like Paradise, Kentucky have converted to gas. So it's not a foretold conclusion that they will shut down. According to reports, Cumberland is compliant with regulations with the use of their scrubber system, so less of a target for environmental regulators. Therefore, while I certainly do not possess a crystal ball, given the current administration's more coal-friendly stance, I feel that the situation is sometime in coming. Further, if we take steps, as I've previously laid out, we can lessen our dependence on the drug of TVA money with increased revenues through development. Thank you.